on United on the left side of your screen. That means they have the first pick of the first ban. Scotty, Terra, RDO, all that fun stuff banned out?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine that you're going to give Panda Cat Scotty because he's going to end up building Height of the Urchin before everyone else was, and then we don't really want to deal with that. But Naja, taking it away from Sinosure, it used to seeing a throwaway ban in that first pick position. You want to make sure that you're dictating what the enemy team is going to give you. United's going to get first choice, and taking away a god that you might not want to first pick, but the enemy team may pick somewhere down the line is kind of standard practice. Naja's a good one because Sinosure has an excellent Naja.
Sinosure is one of the better Najas in the game, and I maintain that there are very few worlds where Naja is just not a very strong pick. You might not always want to select him, but the ability for him to like clean up in the end game is very strong. We saw Homie FA do that.
You know what's really funny is the 3 gods you were like, yeah, they're guaranteed banned. None of them got banned.
RDO will be first pick for United. We saw RDO twice so far, once in Europe, shoutouts to Maniac, and then Uzi was a bear last game. It happened, and he played RDO
I've been
as
telling Uzi was a bear for like literally 4 seasons. And I'm really happy. I was really sad that I didn't get to cast it because I felt like I needed to be there for that moment.
So with that in mind, as Scotty and Kakulin are locked in for Trifecta, what did you see out of RTO in both times she played in the solo lane? What do you see about her?
We've seen her, College played her support as well. She's good. I mean, she just has good wave clear. She feels unkillable because of how many abilities she has, but that's the nature of all stance switchers. They feel like they've got a million abilities because they do, realistically. She's strong, not unbeatable by any stretch, though. Everything RTO does is incredibly interruptible. CC ruins this character, and yeah, that's the meme, oh, just CC them. But you don't do any damage because everything she does is channeled. Everything.
Sure. So we're looking, I think it'd be interesting to play heavy silence characters into this pick. Scotty, Kakulin, Sylvanas picked for Trifecta. Still total room for Nox and Sylvanas, but Trifecta banned Nox themselves out, so oh well. Terra and Ho Yi gonna be selected for United. I'm just not gonna guess any of the picks or bans whatsoever anymore.
It's a lesson that you have to be taught every once in a while again and again, and that's just, you know, it's just one of those days.
We can't all be dry bear. Last pick ban coming in is going to be the Morrigan, a character who I think seeing the Morrigan rise in popularity is exactly what to expect out of a character like this. Very difficult to play, so when she first comes out, you're going to see a very low number of her, but as players have more and more time to really practice and perform, up she goes, Raijin shows up, here he is. Here he is
in that mid lane for Whirlwind, and Whirlwind was probably the quintessential Raijin player whenever he was dominant. He was the one who, in my mind at least, that I was always looking towards to say, this guy is playing Raijin at a really high level. What is he doing that I can learn from? And now that he's back in the meta, no surprise to see Whirlwind pick him.
Thoth and Thor will be for United, so that kind of locks down the jungle and the mid lane. And then Jingwei will be the hunter of choice for Trifecta. Side note, Snoopy will not be playing for Trifecta today. He's feeling ill, so instead taking his place will be Meerkat.
Who is jungling? Kakulin jungle.
Yes.
And then Scotty solo?
Interesting. Scotty, yeah, I would say probably the Jingwei solo. Scotty in the hunter lane. Where is Meerkat playing is my question. Does he just step in and take the hunter role for Snoopy?
Yes, yeah. He no reason to switch up your entire team. Meerkat's played the ADC role before at a competitive level. Okay. May as well just stick him in there. But I don't know what this is. Welcome to Trifecta with Kiki and Aurora on it, because it's going to be some weird stuff happening for them. No, it's Raijin jungle. Okay.
I love how just as we showed him Sinosure, like,
he's just
hit the one, boom, 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 which I need to correct Taco real quick. Those are not bongos, okay? Bongos are drums that hit the floor that have a hollow inside that are usually either you play a myriad of them, you put those are not bongos. Those are quads. Very different applications, very different instruments. They're not even in the same type of music. Bongos frequently finding themselves in Latin music, quads frequently finding them in North American traditional marching music, just completely different stuff. How dare you call them bongos, Taco?
Aren't they taiko drums?
You need to just I can just solo cast this if you'd like. I was just kidding. Please don't leave.
Nah, I want to watch this game. I want to watch Raijin jungle.
Yeah, actually, all right, let's get down to business real quick. Raijin jungle, he's going to bring the heavy clear, which is what we've been celebrating about him so much in the mid lane. What about him translates into the jungle?
He's got an escape. His heavy clear, #1, as you mentioned. You're not going to take too long to clear your buffs. A long-range ultimate.
You're working real hard.
Yeah, I don't know. This doesn't. I can honestly say, and as long as I have played Smite, I have never once played with or against a Raijin jungle.
So here's an interest. So there are a bunch of mages out there that I think are competitively viable in the jungle role. We've seen the Hobwobby played a number of times. I think that we've seen the Poseidon jungle be played a couple of times by DJ Pernigan specifically. And then you start to get a little bit weird. But the idea generally being, can you clear the jungle stuff? Do you have burst damage for efficient ganks? And can you walk around the map efficiently? I guess Raijin checks all those boxes.
Not untrue. I mean, he can definitely initiate a fight with the Mez if you want to dash in. It's pretty risky, taking a lot of damage sticking around. Pretty risky against Thor and RTO too. Pretty good early game fighters.
I mean, yeah, I think these two are two of the more celebrated early game fighters. Thor, we talk about his passive all the time, just gets stronger from more people being around him. And RDO, naturally as a stance switcher, will be stronger level 1 and even level 2 than most of the players around. Hand of the Gods, recently rising in popularity. That's going to secure the blue buff.
He walks in there like, hey, thanks, guys. I'll be taking this. I appreciate
squad.
You tanking it up and starting it for me. And this is... I just wonder why TFECT decided to pull out this strategy today. Because you have a substitute, you really need to make sure that the right side of the map is going to work well together and that your mid 3v3 is going to be clean and comfy, because you're not going to have your usual hunter to back you up in the late game. Not that Meerkat can't do that job, but you just don't have that same trust that you would with your starter. So this tells me that TFECT is very, very confident in this strategy.
That's really what I'm looking for. Nice walls, gonna block a roar. Love the hesitation as well there. Getting a couple more pot shots in. He'll be safe under the tower. But again, shout outs to Polar Bear Mike. I think the instinct is to just slam those walls shut, but Aurora was effectively CC'd anyway because he was blocked inside of there, and then as soon as he looked like he was going to walk out of it, closed. It's a small, you know me. I like bringing attention to the small stuff.
And I like that Aurora decided to hold the sprint until PandaCat committed the ultimate. A lot of supports there probably just pop the sprint because they know they're in trouble right off the bat, but you force PandaCat into that cooldown first and then use the sprint. Otherwise, he can hold that ultimate and use it at another time.
Polar Bear Mike and Aurora are two of the more fun supports to watch, I think. Both of them have a very active play style.
You know who's not going to be active in high-res TV chat is Polar Bear Mike, because he made another deal with me to get banned. Yeah, I'm still looking for an SPL player to exchange for Polar Bear Mike's release. In all honesty, I don't disagree with you. These are two guys that think about the game a lot, and they think about it in different ways. Aurora always has these sort of different ideas about the way the game should be played, and a lot of that comes from his experience with other MOBAs outside of Smite, his brother being a professional League of Legends player. Those sorts of perspectives give you a different look and a different outlook on how you can be playing your game as well. And I think that that's where a lot of things like a Willix support that Aurora's run in the past really come from. Polar Bear Mike also has a different perspective than most of the pro players because he came into the league a lot later than many of the pros did. He wasn't playing Smite at all during the beta or anything like that. It wasn't until Giannis was released that PBM decided to pick up the game and quickly became a really, really good player, and didn't take him long to find a pro team, which is an incredible story on his end. So both of these guys look at the game a little bit differently than other supports and other players in general do in the league, and I think that lends itself to why it's so fun to watch them.
And Polar Bear Mike is I mean, sure, not any professional history, but a longtime fan of traditional sports, and I think that kind of lends itself to why he's such a leader. He values the outside of the line stuff. I really find that you don't really see the value, or you don't really see players value the individual as much as just like what the meta dictates most of the time, as much as Polar Bear Mike does. And I think that's a really big reason why I compare him to players like Peyton Vion sometimes. His ability to just lead the team is just as important as his abilities to hit his buttons. And
that's the support play style, right? You gotta be able to do things outside of your team sometimes, and you expect your support players to be a little bit more team-oriented, a little bit more unselfish, and you know, it's a stereotype for a reason, at least in that case, and works out for most supports.
Yeah, and you know, touching on Aurora one more time, as he's the squad, his team is the one showing up with the Ryzen jungle, excuse me, so it might make a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
It's those different perspectives, like you said, and funny enough, Aurora and I get along really well and wind up going down those rabbit holes of, you know, why don't you play Poseidon jungle into Giannis? And he's like, well, because... Okay, we actually have to sit down and think about this and really dealing it out. It's funny, one of the last times we actually hung out with Aurora for, I think he was here for the Energy Invitational. Yeah. We were just talking about games that he had been playing, and he brought up game 2 of a set that he played virtually 3 years ago. And just his ability to really like remember those sort of details, I think, is really telling. Sometimes you see these guys that kind of value the jank strategies, the Johnnies of the world. You're just trying to be different. No, Aurora actually will have all of the details and just thinks wider than other players.
And it really helps out his play style, and it fits. One of the reasons why he fits so perfectly with his trifecta roster. Snoopy's been running Mercury ADC, AMC, you know, all Vulcan. You know, he'll play anything in that duo lane. Kiki has played every god ever in competitive play, basically, between the role changes and him just playing odd things in that solo lane on his own time. So it's just a perfect fit for Aurora with his trifecta team.
You know, it's interesting. You played against Sinosure on the console side of things, Sinosure being one of the players to make the transition, one of the few players to make the positive transition, actually. And, you know, he definitely showed his stuff on the Naja, as we mentioned earlier, but was he one to really want to go for the oddball selections?
No, Sino, that was one of the things that I think that I thought might limit him in his transition to the PC side of things, was that he had a couple gods that he was very, very strong on, and every so often, as most players do, they'll add another one to that list. But for the most part, he was playing his own stuff, and here he's playing the Raijin, and that's crazy.
Yeah, Scream with a great wall to cut off Heroin here, stunned out as well, and the third shot's good. Scream starts it, Scream finishes it. First blood for E United.
Aurora is here for these Fire Elementals, but Scream gonna get taken down by Kiki, answered back by Trifecta. Nice ultimate out of Sinosure, big damage on a Venenu who can't quite find the ultimate of his own.
Yeah, not as much trade damage. The Raijin a lot more powerful at this early point than the Thoth, huh?
Yeah, base damage on Tycho Jump's pretty nuts, but can he secure his own speed with Kiki's Hog? The answer is yes, and so that's why I like the Hog in this scenario. When you've got a jungler that might not be able to secure quite as well as the enemy, you pick up that Hand of the Gods, and you're the one who's there with them, Kiki helping out his jungler.
Yeah, and touching on the Sino point here, you know, I saw the same thing in the console scene, and what's interesting is he's fit in so well with this particular squad, and I think that is, he got really lucky being able to join up with these guys straight up. Obviously, their talent there, but the individuals, I think, mesh really well. I know Sinosure a little bit, not as well as the other guys, admittedly, but I feel like he just fits in with the squad, and that allows him to buy into this strategy. Maybe Sino was the guy that brought forward Raijin Jungle, but I have a feeling it was a team conversation that he said, you know what, guys, I trust you, I'm down.
And that's so much of life, not just in competitive, you know, gaming or whatever, but how much do you hear, you know, you just got to be in the right place and the right time, and certainly the case for Sinosure, I don't disagree. Anytime you can join a squad like Heroin, Snoopy, Ionic at the time, that's a bunch of players who have such a great pedigree, and to be able to join and learn up with them, I'm sure Sino feels very fortunate.
And at the same time, they selected him.
Yes.
It wasn't like somebody came up with 5 console players like, y'all gotta pick one of these. Okay, I guess so. They took him above other PC-ready players, so they saw something in Sinosure. So, you know, he didn't win the lotto there. It was push and pull, but very, very nice addition to the PC world, specifically Trifecta. He's been a pleasure to watch here, and it's been a pleasure to watch him grow as well. I think that Fall Split Sinosure is a big step away from where he first came into the league, and it's fun to watch him just continue to get better. I really want to see what he does on this Raijin.
It's certainly been a growth period for him during all of Season 4. It used to be, oh, here comes, in memory of Gabe, it's Heroin and Snoopy and Ionic and Walrus at the time. And yeah, Sinosure, right? Like you were, you know, he wasn't on the headline for this team by any stretch. Now, when you're thinking about Trifecta, I think of literally everyone on the roster, himself included.
He's been a ton of fun to be a part of it. Meerkat, the sub, taking half HP in just a matter of seconds, quickly gets out of there. Jingwei, a very safe hunter. Nice to pick for the substitute. Meerkat, once a SPL player in his own right, usually known as a solo laner. However, as you mentioned, ouch, he does have his experience elsewhere.
I think he did play a little bit of competitive ADC as well, as PBM gets pulled underneath the tower. I like the ultimate, though, from PandaCat, making sure that Meerkat can't follow up. Now it's Aurora who's in a lot of trouble, trying to get away with that sprint, and will escape underneath the safety of his tower.
I like that pull specifically for one reason. We'll mention it as soon as Scream dies. Sinosure with the kill with the jungle Raijin so far. Going under the tower, looking for the Raiju hit. Gonna detonate it. He's got friends as well. Double kill for the jungle Raijin. Making sure to say that one more time.
He's just got so much good burst damage, and he can play aggressive in that sort of scenario. I love Sino just hitting those drums. No fear of the fact that he's getting a Final Judgment charged right in front of him, showing just how much damage. He knows exactly how much damage he's going to take in that scenario, and how much he has to work with, and how much damage he's going to do as well. I mean, this is a guy who knows how much Raijin he's played.
That's the key.
But clearly enough, because he knows exactly how much damage he's putting out.
That's the key, is when he went underneath the tower to apply the Raiju and then detonate it, that is not a... I've played Raijin a handful of times. That amount of damage is surprising to a lot of people that play against and even pick up Raijin themselves, especially since he's been popular recently. Knowing how much damage that Raiju is going to do, almost bringing down the Thoth, that is a testament to the fact that Sinosure has definitely tried this once or twice, earning the double kill for himself with a little bit of help from Kiki. Makes it 3-1, a trifecta leading in the kill column, but not necessarily in the gold column. United already off to a nice start, about 500 gold above their opposition. And
they've got a couple level leads as well on the right side of the map. Both Kiki and Sino enjoying an XP lead in their favor. But on the left side of the map, PandaCat's been the one who's been able to maintain a lead over Meerkat thus far. So look for PandaCat to be the one that United wants to try and fight around as this mid game we get a little bit closer to it.
PandaCat gonna jump over the knock up here from Meerkat. Mid lane, Sino just keep it on. 3-0-1. The jungler looking pretty clean.
What long range damage from the ultimate. Raijin, I know we've talked about it, but it just blew my mind that this character has a leap, all this kind of stuff, and can full clear the wave at level 2, and the community was still not onto him. Talking to a lot of mid laners, they were saying, yeah, we think he's pretty good. Clearly, even junglers are liking him.
Well, Aurora's not liking that one. Polar Bear Mike getting credit for the kill. Big addition from the guys on United. PBM now 25%, dashing forward is Sino, looking for the big damage, but Benji's gonna try and block him out. Kiki finishes what Sino started, taking down players on the back end. Now Kiki trying to chase down Benji, and Sino barely hanging alive, and Benji trying to deal with Kiki, but I think that's that.
Kiki still looking to fight, though, a little bit. Scream's looking to fight as he teleports in and finds Sino, who got chased down. Scream coming back from that initial pick in that mid lane. Now Heroin rooted in place. Nice stun onto Kiki to allow Benji to keep on going if he so chose, but instead it's United deciding to back up. Ends up being a 2-for-2 in total there, I believe.
I love this play by Benji. Oh, Aurora made the rotation. I like that play from Benji a lot when Scream was just chilling in the jungle, like, do it. Just do it. Jump on my solo laner, and I will jump on you. I mean, Scream chasing Sino to the ends of the earth, because that was a successful escape. Great job by Trifecta to both protect Sinosure, specifically Kiki so cheeky, and then Sino getting out. I don't want to call it a lazy bag for backing on the backside of his tier 1 tower. That was just Scream picking up the garbage.
And there's just too many things happening there for Trifecta to peel away. Yeah. Benji, PBM, and worry about Scream, who full commits to the teleport. That just Scream knowing that he has a little bit of extra movement speed with that Heart Seeker as well, allows him to get away with a little bit more in terms of those aggressive plays. But Sino's the one who's been playing aggressive a lot of this game, dashing in on top of 2, has to use both relics to get away. Now he's got about a minute plus where he has to play a little bit more passive than he was before, because you need those relics if you're going to be dashing aggressively as a mage.
Something I want to bring up about Sinosure playing this jungle Raijin is that I think that term is a little bit deceptive. We've seen a double mid lane pretty much. I think out of the Sino Shore and Whirlwind, we have seen him that was the first time we really saw him outside of this vicinity of this mid lane, outside of the beginning of the game, really.
And that's kind of all junglers right now, and has been for quite some time. You're mostly either pairing up with your solo laner or with your mid laner, and this is just sound strategy from TFECT. Keep Raijin out of those 1v1 scenarios in the jungle where it might not fare as well, because any assassin's going to be doing more in 1v1s because their auto attacks are going to be hitting for more. But in the mid lane, where you've got the range advantage, where you have the mobility advantage, that's where Raijin's going to excel, and TFECT are putting themselves in positions to succeed.
Wonderful application of the strategy. Goes to show that, like, when you do select these oddball characters or these off-the-meta picks, you can't just plug and play and expect everything to work out. We saw week 1, a certain team went hell support, and the support player played it exactly the way he would have played any other support character and got punished miserably for it. You have to play these selections a little bit differently. Raijin, certainly no exception to the rule here. I like talking about these mage jungles. I think that opens up a big door. As I mentioned, the Poseidon and the Habwa really come out as the most notable mage jungles, I think. Any others really pique your interest?
No, I think Habwa and Poseidon are probably the two that are the most effective.
Well, here's the Terra ultimate as United look to go after TFECT after they sniffed around the Gold Fury. Scream gets all up in there, but I'm not really sure how much he actually wants to bite off. Sino Shore brought down a half HP, and Polar Bear Mike knocked up. Bunch of noise for nothing.
2 ultimates used by United, and TFECT commit absolutely nothing to survive outside of the sprint from Aurora. And we haven't seen Sylvanas in a while, but that heal will really sneak up on you and just how potent it can be. So TFECT has to, or excuse me, United really has to be wary of TFECT just grouping and doing something like this, pulling the Gold Fury with the use of that Sylvanas sustain.
This is the right call. Venenu still does have the ultimate, however. So his ability to confirm this is smart. Love the pull away. TFECT take the Gold Fury, move it right out of the Suns coming out from Panda Cat. Excellently tanked and executed by TFECT.
Benji still pushing forward, but just enforcing that TFECT needs to go back to base and allow United to try and get this tier 1 in mid.
Worth noted that TFECT still are trailing, if you want to be technical about the gold, and with United taking down this tier 1 tower. If it goes down, which it won't, a couple more basics and put 500 gold in the pocket of United, but not going to be the case. All of that work, TFECT leading in kills, TFECT making a nice play around the Gold Fury, still the lead technically in United's favor.
But it's ever so slightly. XP completely tied basically as well. This game is even, and so you start to look at which team is going to excel more in the later stages. United has plenty of frontline between Benji and the Terra for Polar Bear Mike. TFECT's got some decent frontline as well between Aurora and Kiki, but how well can this jungle Raijin work out in the late game? I think it could be great. I mean, you look at how much damage you have between 2 ADCs and a mage. You might be lacking in your initiation, yes, but Sino's ultimate can be used as peel whenever United jumps on top of TFECT, or it can be used as the initiation tool if really necessary. Aurora's also gone for Blink. That can be your initiation. I think that TFECT's roster in the late game is going to have a ton of damage, and it's up to United to try and split up those damage dealers so they aren't all hitting the same target, because if Whirlwind, Meerkat, and Sino are hitting Benji, I don't care how tanky that bear is, he's probably going to fall.
And as the game comes into the later stages, you stop becoming the jungler, as it's known. You stop becoming that freewheeling, free safety assassin, kill him in one shot, and you just become another battle bot. You become part of the team fight. And so, gee, how does Raijin team fight? I mean, the answer is pretty damn well, guys. Long range damage, specifically chain lightning type damage that goes throughout the team. You know, I'm not worried about Raijin in the late game. I'm worried about him in the early to mid game in the jungle specifically. I've always found Raijin's mid game a little bit lackluster.
Well, now he's got the Gem of Isolation, so really trying to put that Raiju out and slow down the entirety of the enemy team, along with the Spear of the Magus. If that's the sort of route you're going to go for with your build of just utility-oriented, trying to annoy the enemy team, make their job a little bit harder, Spear Gem is the combination for Raijin now. Completely different from how you used to build him, where it was just pure burst. Now a little bit more utility-oriented. and the build reflects it.
And I think that has something to say about the position he's playing here specifically. You know, I think if you're in the mid lane, you're probably still all burst, maybe spear, but I don't think we see a gem of isolation on most of the traditional mid-Ryzen builds. I think him being in the jungle during this mid game, that's why we see this gem of isolation, because his damage does sort of take a lull here, doesn't it?
A little bit, more so previously, because you had to put a bunch of points into Percussive Storm in order to clear the wave, and then that slowed down your early game. But now you only need 2 points into Percussive Storm to full clear archers the entire game, so you can prioritize your 2 and your 3 before you ever need to put points in your 1 again.
Meerkat being caught in his rotation, stunned out again, but able to walk around the wall. Meerkat kind of looking at him. It's interesting. I don't know when the last time Meerkat has really played high-level Smite.
He's always just one of those guys who's always hanging around with some of the pro players. You know, these guys are buddies, and if he's done it once, it doesn't take too long to get back on the bike. Is kind of the idea.
Oh, really?
Talking to some other players around the league, he has been practicing up this week, so all
right, that's good.
So he's at least semi-prepared for this matchup, and he's holding his own. I mean, he isn't dominating the lane by any stretch of the imagination. PandaCat has been running that duo lane all game long, but Panda is one of the more recognizable names in the hunter role in North America anyways, and to ask Meerkat to come in and perform as Snoopy would is just not a realistic ask of your sub.
And, you know, with that in mind, I think that's why we see we're talking about going this odd selection with Snoopy out. I think that's why we see it. I think that TFECT probably has a lot of faith in this combination, excuse me, of Kiki, Sino, and Herwin, and wanted to put more leverage on the other side of the map that they can depend on because they're their regulars.
That's true.
Starters.
That's true. I mean, you can really look at it either way. TFECT does not strike me as a team that is lacking confidence in any phase of the game, in any sort of situation, whether they're playing with subs or not. So it truly doesn't surprise me too much. And honestly, at this point, Sino's made such a big impact on this game that even from here on out, you're not going to look at this jungle Raijin as a failure, because he's already, look at what he's done to Scream's build. He's forced him into a Genji's guard early on and delayed that damage by quite a bit. Because Scream was getting so bodied by it in the early to mid game, you're forcing him into a different build path, which means that it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him to be effective. I
almost think that you know, TFECT might have wanted to keep this one sort of under wraps, but they're gonna go for it anyway here. 5-3, 22 minutes on the clock. TFECT grouping up in the mid lane, looking for a shot. Only 2 players here guarding out against the opposition on the tier 1 tower, but TFECT going to slink into the left side jungle as Kiki's made the rotation and kind of boxing out Scream here. I don't know if Gold Fury's the play, but TFECT certainly wants to bluff like it is.
Well, TFECT has to worry about that Oracle vision here for United. You know, they don't really have a ton of objective damage, even between the 2 hunters. Not a lot of big attack speed coming out of that Scotty. Herwin's gone for a much more tanky sort of role now with the height of the Urchin. He's built the Jotun's Wrath as well. So his objective damage isn't going to be the normal hunter level.
Polar Bear Mike trying to get rid of the ward there.
You know Mike said some stuff in comms whenever that was happening.
Absolutely, not a little bit happy about it whatsoever. Gold Fury going to be brought down to about 70%. And United still just dancing around this one. I think TFECT has the upper hand when it comes to this Gold Fury dance, almost strictly because of Herwin and Sino's ability just to make everybody bounce around.
Well, Sino taking a lot of damage in that mid lane, actually lost his purification beads. With Benji there with 2. Scream is up in the air looking for 1. It's going to be Kiki, and he gets bursted right away. Nice setting it up.
Nice command. Meanwhile, mid-tower, it's all about Benji 2v1ing underneath the tower. Sino, not much he can do once all the stuff is on cooldown. Nice little Ricochet coming out, chasing a Roar out as well. United, you know, it's interesting. I said I thought that Sino and Herwin combined probably had better control of this area. So that's why you shove him out of the conversation.
Benji 2v1'd underneath a tower. That was crazy. And did you see that? PandaCat just used the monolith from Polar Bear Mike to set up a triple bounce. And that's not an area where you can triple bounce the Gold Fury. That's pretty clever there out of PandaCat. Helps United and the rest DPS the objective down. And United gets their first Gold Fury of the game. Look, 3,000 gold at this stage, not anything to really be too worried about if you're TFECT. The thing that I'm worried about is Benji, because you just had 2 of your damage dealers on him underneath a tower, and you couldn't handle him. So what makes you think you're going to be able to handle him without a tower?
I want you to answer this honestly. Is that RTO or is that Benji? Because I think that's Benji, just as much as the God.
I think it's more height of the Urchin on my mid laner.
Sure.
That means that he's not doing any damage to a level 19 RTO at this stage. Part of it is RTO, yes, but there's not a lot of interrupt there. Like I said, that's what really makes RTO struggle. You're relying on Sinosure to use the dash aggressively to stop the things that she's doing in terms of damage. I think it's a mixture of both. But I think it's the fact that Heroine's down 3 levels, and that's not Heroine's fault. It's mid lane to solo lane,
right.
And he's gone for a defensive, team fight-oriented build that's not going to help him kill Benji in that sort of scenario.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. The height of the Urchin on the mid lane has been pretty interesting, and I don't know. You mentioned Panda Cat being a little creative with the monolith there on the Gold Fury. Panda Cat's been one of my favorite players to watch for a long time. He was the Scotty player when everybody said Scotty no. He built the height of the Urchin.
People are still saying Scotty no, just a different reason.
That's very true. 3-player collapse on the right side of the map, and it's Kiki in a lot of trouble. Look at the damage coming out from Benji, and down he goes, easy peasy. No real excitement there. There's 4 players collapsing on 1, and, well, Kiki, sorry, bud, you're not really doing it, sitting out for 48 seconds.
Meerkat trying to handle Scream in that mid lane while the rest of United's pushing this down. 4v3 on the right-hand side. Nice stuns onto Heroine. He has to use the Aegis and probably the beads as well, and Ven does a good job of setting up off of that play.
Nice little dunk down by the Thor, forcing Meerkat away from the tier 1 tower. I don't know how far they're going to chase. It'll just be that tier 2 tower on the right side being aggressed and toppled. Aurora gets rooted and now jumped on for the knockup. There's the dash forward. Panda Cat one more time finds the kill. Love this. I love watching Panda Cat play. The aggression that he brings, just a lot of fun, man.
PBM with the well-timed route onto Aurora and Sylvanas. It was dominant during Season 3 and then all of a sudden wasn't, and a lot of that is the fact that super immobile in the early game. Yes, it can bring you a lot of pressure, but there are other gods that can give you pressure as well that don't get as punished in the later stages. Terra does such a good job of making Sylvanas feel a lot more manageable than other supports can. Not only because it's easy CC out of the Terra that can lock down the Sylvanas, but the Terra's blessing as well. You don't want to be hitting characters with dots because you'll just end up healing them.
Sure.
So if you're hitting someone with wisps or even your ultimate, you're going to end up healing them off the Wrath of Terra, the Terra's blessing, even with your Wrath of Terra.
Yeah, look at that. Wrath of Terra, the ultimate of choice for Aurora. Trifecta here, looking up at United, down about 8,000 here. And this is one of the larger leads that we've seen in this game. In fact, the largest lead that we've seen all game. And as we look towards the late game comes approaching, I'm not too terrified for Trifecta because, again, I like their late game composition. I think Sinosure, Heroine, and Meerkat have characters that scale very well into the late game, and more importantly, make defense. When you defend on the Phoenixes and such, these characters can really wreak havoc by taunting in from Sinosure, the ice field from Scotty. It's not fun to push into these characters whatsoever.
No, and you get knocked up by Meerkat, and all of a sudden you're kind of launched into the clutches of the entirety of Trifecta. The problem for Trifecta is that I don't know if Kiki can really afford to frontline anymore against how much damage Venenu and Panda Cat have available to them now. You saw how quickly he fell on the right-hand side before. That could be the real problem for Trifecta. And Aurora hasn't gotten any mileage out of this blink yet. Is he going to be the one to blink engage with the ultimate, or are they going to let United just walk in and try and take this Phoenix?
I'd like to see Trifecta actually not be the aggressor here. I want to see them just try and play defense, but they're not doing anything whatsoever. Aurora now finally walking up a little forward. Benji shape shifts. Meanwhile, mid lane, jungle v solo. Scream dealing with Kiki over there. Now he takes to the sky. Love this vantage point for the jungler. Gonna land right on top of 2 for the stun on Aurora and Meerkat. Looking for the kill onto the support. Oh. Not gonna happen, but Venenu takes care of Meerkat on the left side.
Kiki still trying to chase down PBM, and he'll find him and the beads from one member of United as Heroine cleans up Benji, who went a little bit too deep underneath that Phoenix. Now they've got enough damage to deal with him.
That was a great play by Kiki, isolating 3 separate members of United by his is lonesome. It didn't matter what happened behind him. Venenu deleting a player, deleting his hunter, that doesn't matter. Kiki made sure the rest of the squad didn't push up, and that ultimately protects the Phoenix. Gold Fury, okay. I'm concerned about the Phoenix if I'm on Trifecta. We guarded it. We got the defensive stop. That's a win.
Agreed, absolutely. Trifecta's still in it at this point. And yes, they're down over 10,000 gold, but getting closer and closer to the point where gold's gonna matter less and less. Scream moving up, looking for the double tap onto Sinosure, and he'll find it. Sino's got the Aegis. Scream might look for him here, Tom.
He's up. This is an informational ult just as much as it was perhaps looking for Sinosure there. Scream wanted to take to the sky, see where everybody was, maybe even get a kill on Kiki off the fact, taunt his corpse a couple of times, but Scream went up. Yes, I'm going to look at Sinosure, but I also want to see how close everybody is to the objective that my team is pushing. I like to call those satellite ults. I think it was very well executed by Scream, and you know what? He earned that taunt.
It was a good play. That's ideal. You force one out, then you charge the ultimate, come back to your team, and help set up their kill. The wall also sets up for Vent's ultimate.
Panicat just gonna start the spread by dropping the Suns right underneath the tower. Good poke coming out from the jungle Thor. Benji pulled on in, half HP knocked up as well by the ultimate out of Aurora. And the Phoenix very low, gonna be taken down by the basic attacks through the wall of Venenu.
Big damage on a Heroine there from Venenu, just with that evade and punish stun. Almost found that kill. Heroine did manage to hold on to the purification beads, so we'll have some defense available to him. And I know I talked about it yesterday, but this is the problem with going Height of the Urchin on a character that you're relying on to deal damage. If you get ahead and get the stacks and continue to build your damage, it feels amazing, because not only do you still do a lot of damage because you're ahead and have the items necessary, but you have a lot more survivability as well. That's what Venenu's enjoying right now for EUnited. If you build the Height of the Urchin and then you fall behind after that, you feel really useless because you're still dying because you don't have a lot of Height of the Urchin stacks, and you're not doing any damage because you build Height of the Urchin, and that's what Heroine is not enjoying right now for Trifecta. Now he's got the Titan's Bane working towards what's probably going to be an Executioner to make sure that he and Meerkat are hitting frontliners like Benji as hard as possible, but that's the danger of going for these defensive items on a character that you really need to be doing damage.
I also feel like the gold lead and setting you up to correct me on this, I feel like the gold lead is less important when damage dealers are going defensive items for the team on the bottom. Like knowing that EUnited is up a slew of gold, but you see the defensive Urchin on the mid laner. Thoth is still scary, but like I'm not going to be as devastated by one shot as I am had he been full power.
That's yes and no.
Give and take?
You're right in the sense that you don't have to be worried about getting one shot quite as much, but you also feel like he's going to be doing enough damage and you can't kill him. And that's where I think a lot of these mid laners have kind of fallen in love with this item, in the sense that they feel like they aren't getting punished quite as hard, but they also aren't dealing out that punishment.
As a team, you can collapse on a guy. I don't care if you have 10 stacks or 20 stacks on your Height of the Urchin, 5 dudes on one, you're going to kill him. Right? Whereas the direct trade mid lane firing from the back end, that's less devastating, and the full collapse of players on the mid mage is still just as scary. So I think for Trifecta looking up to players that are building defensively, it's less as if he was just full damage. I don't know.
In one way, yes. In another, if you're getting full, if 5 people are surrounding your mid mage, you should be able to either save them
exactly.
or, you know, and even if it buys you an extra 2 seconds, 1 second in competitive Smite, that's a big enough window that a lot of teams can make plays there. It does make sense.
That's a big point. I think that's the point I was fishing for, is the fact that, you know, small windows do open up big opportunities. Polar Bear Mike pulled. Not a big enough window there for them to collapse on Polar Bear Mike. Left side Phoenix, about 60%.
Pandacat's really hurting onto Kiki right now, even with that health shield, the heals from Aurora. Pandacat is just shredding through the protections that Kiki has, and with the lifesteal, he's not double lifesteal as well with the Aussie. Not too worried about that Height of the Nemean Lion that Kiki bought.
Are they waiting? They are not waiting. They're going right on into the back end. Penji all the way, dealing with Sinosure. That jungle Raj should not be able to do much. Meanwhile, Scream landing on top of Aurora before he meets the fountain. The wall to cut everybody off puts E United in the double digits. 10 kills in the column. Benji makes it 11. E United take care of the left side Phoenix, and they're looking for more.
Nice ultimate at Saito, but the Aegis was available for Panda Cat. Almost finished off Venenu, but couldn't quite do so. Herwin, the lone defender of Trifecta's Titan. And now there's no defenders. E United with a really nice performance here in game number 1. 13-7, but they were in control past the mid game.
They were in control.